Several months ago when I started the Mittleider gardening method, I did a video on how to build this in the garden greenhouse, or these T-frames here, and then covering with the PVC arches. There were no instructions in the Mittleider gardening course book to how to do this, so I asked Jim Kennard some questions and kind of went off what I thought was best. I have some updates and some recommendations, some changes that I encourage you to consider when you're building this for vertical gardening. The first thing is we had these on the outside. In other words, these 45-degree elbows were on the outside of this 2x4. What I found is when I had the plastic over it here in winter, it wore holes in the plastic, being on the outside of the frame, and also on the fabric during the summer when I was using it for shade. I recommend that you put these on the inside because it creates a nice slope down to the edge and doesn't have an edge poking out. It'll make your plastic and fabric last a lot longer. The next recommendation I'd like to make is don't use this setup here. It's not necessary. I was concerned that the wire would be loose and slack and droop and look terrible. That isn't the case. This takes more time and is more costly. You do not need to use this at all to have a great looking and successful vertical garden. As you can see here, I'm in the center of the structure, and what I did here is I simply drilled a hole and ran the cable all the way through to the end on both ends. Here I'm using a 5/16 by 4 inch long lag thread screw eye. I'll have links below this video for all the things I mentioned, so you can go to those links, see exactly what I'm using, and have a source to get them. What I did is I took this bolt here, screwed it in about halfway to where the threads are, and then attached this 9-gauge wire. Then I simply wrapped this wire around here to secure it. I pulled it about 6 inches long and then wrapped it around. That gives me about 5 or 6 turns here. Originally I had used this to take up the slack on the cable, but what I found is that this actually took up too much slack and it started the 2x4s out on the edge to bow. So I came back and loosened this up, and as you can see, this is actually nice and loose here. So what I do now is I simply put this in about halfway to where the threads are, attach both ends, and then I turn this in, and about to where the threads get, it seems to be, is where it's nice and snug but not too tight. A lot less expensive, faster to do, and it works just great. Originally, before I had the wire in on this outside edge, we were tying everything up to the 2x4s, and we used a special knot to do that because an overhand knot won't stay on a 2x4 because it's not round like the cable. The problem I found with that is that that brings the plant directly underneath the edge here, and as I bring up the bird netting, the plastic, or the agricultural fabric that I use for wind block, it actually damages the plants. So I'd rather have the plant about 4 inches further in, and that's exactly what we've done with the new wiring. So as you can see here, I've measured 4 inches in from this board, and then I put in my lag screw, and that keeps the plants away from this edge here. So as I bring this up and down, the plants are going to be out of the way and they won't get torn up. The last recommendation I'd like to make on this video is do not buy packaging twine at Home Depot or Lowe's to tie up your plants. We have had a catastrophe of these things breaking. It's my opinion that they just don't stand up against the UV light and they just simply crack and break. We have had literally dozens of plants fall because we were using this. Please use the 170-pound baler twine. You can see the difference here. The baler twine will last you years and years and years, and it's thicker so it does not cut into the plants. Again, I'll have a link below for this baler twine. Do not get anything less than 170 pounds. So either 170 or 210-pound baler twine will work great. I cut these in anywhere from 10 to 12 foot lengths. Then I just use a slip knot up at the top and the bottom to secure it. Then I wrap the twine around the plant. Do not wrap the plant around the twine. The plant will break. I share this with you so you don't have to learn from your own mistakes, but you can learn from mine. I have literally strangled 6 tomato plants using this packaging twine. Please do not use this. I came out there, the plants were healthy and strong, and then they just started dying off. And I could not figure out why until I looked at the stalks and saw that they were heavily damaged. So I went through and started removing this packaging twine and replacing it with the baler twine. Please don't use this. It'll damage your plants. You've got a lot of time and effort and money into it. Don't shortcut on this one thing. The baler twine works great. Very, very happy using that. It's much better than any other trellising system I have used in the past. I hope this update video and recommendations are helpful to you as you set up your vertical garden for maximum yield from the square footage that you have. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear. And also suggesting you take a look at the links below this video to see my previous videos on how to build the T-frames, the in-the-garden greenhouse, to set up the wiring for vertical growing, and links to the items that I use to build the T-frames and vertical supports.